This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Daf Tzadik. Daf Tzadik, we have a mission at the end of the 8th parak. And, the end of the 9th parak really. HaKosev l'ishtoi. And the mission said as follows. The mission says, Katan shehisio aviv. A katan whose father married him off. So when the Kesuvos was written, it was meaningless. Ksubasa kayemes. When he remains living with the woman, the ksuva remains intact. Why? Sha'amanas kein kaima. He keeps her with this condition that he wants to be bound by the original ksuba. Gershin is gaira ishtai, a convert that his wife converted imai with him. So he gave her a ksuba when he married her, and now that ksuba was as a guy. Now he's staying with her. Ksubasa kayemes, amanas kein kaima. So why is the ksuba obligatory? Amanas kein kaima. The Gemara brings the machlekes. Rav Huna says he's only obligating himself to the baseline ksuba of 100, 200. The Tosefes not. Rabbi Yehuda says afilu, even the Tosefes. Fine. You ready for Rabbi Eiger, Kasha? By now you know the klal. Any day you learn Rabbi Eiger is a good day. Frekt Rabbi Eiger. Why does the Mishnah say that you're obligated in the ksuba? Because he married her with the condition. So here's the ger. Tony and Samantha, they both convert. Now he is Feivel and she's Yenta. And he says, Yenta, I am marrying you. So Yenta says, do I still get my ksuba? So the Mishnah says, yeah, you still get your ksuba. You know why? He's marrying you to uphold the original agreement. In other words, when he's staying with her, he's doing so with the stipulation of the original marriage. Says Rabbi Eiger, let's say that factor is not true. Then he would not be obligated to give her a ksuba? I don't understand. The guy, when he married her, he said, I'm going to give you 200 zuz. So what exactly exempts him now? Why do I need a svara but when he's marrying her and staying with her, he's doing it on condition of the original ksuba? Let's say he's not. Let's say he's turning over a new leaf and he's marrying her not on condition of the original ksuba. But he should still be bound by the original ksuba. You know why? Because he bound himself back then. So why is that not binding? What, a goy doesn't have financial obligations? A Gentile is not financially bound? The guy bound himself. He bound himself to her. So why do I need? Because when he remarries her, he does it to uphold the original condition. I don't care whether he wants to or doesn't want to uphold the original condition. He made the original condition. So it's binding. A guy doesn't have responsibility. If a guy creates a shtar, if a guy makes a shibud, he's not meshubed? Of course he's meshubed. So why does the Mishnah have to say, why do I even need this svara? And why is there a machlokes? In other words, we hold that Rabbi Yehuda says you're chayiv even in the Tosefes, and Rav Huna says no, you're only chayiv in the baseline ksuba. What's the machlokes? Of course, you should be chayiv in the Tosefes. If Tony said to Samantha, I hereby, what's the lashon? I hereby declare you husband and wife until death do your part. So Tony said, lady, I'm going to give you 200 zuz and another $500 as a Tosefes ksuba. So he's bound by that. Why would Rav Huna say he's not bound by the Tosefes ksuba? Goyim don't have to keep the word? That's Rabbi Eiger's kasha. So maybe you'll say, yeah, Tony obligates himself to Samantha, but Tony never obligated himself to Sprinza. And Tony's obligated to Samantha, but Feivel's not obligated. Gershon is Gai Katan Shano Dami. But of course, I'm sure you remember from earlier on in the Masechta, from Achsam Sofer, we learned on Daf Gimel Amud Beis that Gershon is Gayer Katan Shano Dami only applies to those things that Jews and Goyim are different in. So then we say, regarding this area, you're a newborn person. But if in this area there is no difference between Gentile and Jew, you don't say Gershon is Gayer Katan Shano Dami. That was Chasam Sofer. We actually learned it in an Iyun Shar and Gimel Amud Beis. That the rule of Gershonos Gayer Kekatan Shnal Dami is not across the board. Namely, what's the halacha if a man and woman have children and then they both convert? Do they have to have children again? It's not Parsha they have to have children again. Why not? Why don't we say Gershonos Gayer Kekatan Shnal Dami? Even though it is Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, the answer is because since Goyim are Shayach to Pru Urevu, even though they're not, by the way, Goyim do not have a mitzvah proof. Maybe they only have the mitzvah of Sheves, but they have some element of the mitzvah. So regarding this area, we don't say Gershonos Gayer Kekatan Shnal Dami. Because since Gentiles are performing a good deed by procreating, so it's not like they revolutionize their identity in the area of procreation. So we don't say Gershonos Gayer Kekatan Shnal Dami when it comes to Pruruvu. Likewise, the same way Goyim, do Goyim have, if Tony is Meshabin himself to Frank, does Tony have to pay? Of course. So regarding Mamonos, there is no Gershonos Gayer Kekatan Shnal Dami. Fret Rabbi Eiger lo yadati, I do not know belav hachi. Forget about Sha'amanas kein kaima. Amai loy kam haheschayvos meidan dehayanachri. Why doesn't the obligation from the time that he's a guy stand? Where do we ever see that a guy cannot be meshabed himself financially? Dr. Asi wants to say Gershonos Gayer. I would say Gershonos Gayer does not apply here. Does not apply here. Question. I have a question. If let's say a guy borrows money from 500 people, and he doesn't know what to do, they're about to arrest him. So he says, I have a great idea, I'll convert. They come, they say, hey pal, you owe a lot of people money. Nah, that was Tony, I'm Feivel now. He doesn't owe the people money anymore? Because Gershonos Gayer Kekatan Shnal Dami? By the way, besides the Svara I said, Gershonos Gayer is only between Ben Adam Lamakayim, not Ben Adam Lachaveroi. That's a different factor. But I always like the factor that I mentioned is I like to use a lot, that Gershonos Gayer is only if in that area you're different than you were as a guy. Fine. So that's the kasha Rabbi Eiger. What does Rabbi Eiger answer? No answer. So we come to the Sefer Beis Yaakov. The Sefer Beis Yaakov was written by the Nesivos HaMishpat on Kesuvos. He asks the same kasha. Ach l'chayra kasha. Mehechi teisi lo yischayev afilu b'hatoisvus shekasav la. Why wouldn't this ger be chayev even in the addition that he wrote to her? Why? Dehavadai afilu im anochi mechayev atzmai be'esnan mi lo yischayev la. Let's say this guy would obligate himself for a harlot's fee. He would also be obligated. Hadavar zeh kekinyan dami k'mavor ba'avad zoresh perkasachar va'atu nachri la bar kinyan v'chivu havadei the kinyan v'chivu shal nachri mahani. Yeah, it's impossible to get out of this one. You can't say that a ger, when he converts, it exempts him from his financial obligations. You would have a lot more converts. Says the Nesivos, listen to this little whopper. When a husband writes a ksuba to his wife, what is he obligating himself in? He's saying, if we remain married, and the only thing that stops it is our divorce or my death, I'm going to give you a ksuba. But let's say they don't remain married. Let's say the marriage is dissolved. Does he obligate himself in a ksuba? You could make a very strong case. He's obligating himself in a ksuba. He's saying, I marry you, and if I am the cause of its cessation, I'll pay you. But what if the marriage just dissolves? He doesn't have to give her a ksuba. When this man converts, he's not married to her anymore. If he's not married to her, he's not chayiv in her original ksuba. He only obligated himself to give her a ksuba if they remain married until he divorces her or he dies. But in this case, they did not remain married, because by his conversion it dissolves the marriage. Wow. That's only if the marriage is not dissolved until the day they die. They don't have ishus, but they have something called be'ulas baal. She was lived with by the husband, and that binds her. The truth is, their marriage is not dissolved until they die. But take of the gaira keketana shenoila dami. As soon as she converts, she's like a newborn person. So you say, oh, I don't owe you because you're a different person. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that since she's a new person, v'himu teres ba'achar, she's permitted to someone else. V'kala ha'ishus koidam hazman shehisnu beinayim. They made a stipulation. I will pay you if this marriage ends because I die. Yeah, but in this case, that's provided the marriage continues until then. But the marriage was dissolved before. It was dissolved before, meaning he says, listen, I'm going to marry you now, and as long as the marriage is not dissolved until I die, I'll pay you. But the thing is, in this case, the agreement was not adhered to. They agreed to be married until he dies, and it wasn't fulfilled because it was dissolved earlier. In this case, he would never obligated himself in that situation. When he takes her back, the original chiyuv was abolished. That is, there are always many ways to answer a question. This question, when you hear the answer, this is the answer.
Can I ask a question about a different mahalach to answer the question, perhaps?
Do you have a different mahalach?
I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm sure there's an issue with it, but I many fears with the question.
Okay.
The finish of the Mishnah is that Zither, the Chayvus was taken on and that survives. So he's clearly Chayiv to her. But the finish of the Mishnah is that the Chiyuv is in the nature of Kesuva, with all the dinim that apply to Kesuva. So, for example, been indifferent, or the other pratim of the dinei Kesuva. So the Chiddush of the Mishnah is not the SMC of Mammon. That clearly owes her because, as you said, a guy can take upon himself the fee of Mammon. But this actually is treated as a Kesuva. So, for example, if he has children with her, they're going to be entitled to the Kesuvos been indifferent, even whereas if it just is treated as a regular fight that was taken on at some point in the past, presumably it would not have the dinah of Kesuvos been indifferent. For example, and maybe there's other.
Okay, but in that case, why would Rav say that he's not obligated in the Tosefes? In other words, it can't be that the chayv is certain because we actually paskin that the agreed upon Tosefes, he's not right. Halach l'maisa, you don't have to pay the Tosefes. Why not? He obligated himself in it originally. So that indicates that the financial obligation originally did cease.
Right, I guess you have to type it that he is chayiv in the Tosefes out the fee of Mammon. That the Kesuba, what turns itself into the Kesuba is only the Iker Manem Asai.
So you're going to say, even Rav would say you are chayiv in the Tosefes?
Dinei Mammon is you're chayiv in the Tosefes, but out Kesuba, you're only chayiv in the Manem Asai, Iker Kesuba. Just a daftuk thing, I guess. But
yeah, Pashtus. The Gemara quoted a brisa, right? That you're not chayiv in the Tosefes. It means you're not chayiv. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who is this? What's your name?
Jonathan Solansky.
Oh, Jonathan. How are you? So you're chayiv for the dinei mammainos. But let's say, for instance, even the shita that you are chayev, for the Tosefes, let's say Rabbi Yehuda, I think everybody agrees you're not chayiv from the original date, right? You're not I think everybody agrees that it's a new obligation, and you're not chayiv for that original date because that ceased. But you would say no. Maybe you are chayiv from the original date.
We kesher to whether you're chayiv from the original date. Maybe you could still say you're not chayiv from the original date because there's some. In other words, I don't know that. Why? But that's usually exclusive to this question about. So Eiger's question is really. I mean, there's clearly a nafkaminas between a regular chayiv and a Kesuvos. So that's why I was thinking along this mahalach, because the answer could be enough. He's chayiv, but the chiddush of the Mishnah is that he's chayiv al Kesuvos, that it turns into a Kesuvos obligation, which is maybe different than a chayiv. But I hear the question about then how do you explain the shita of?
Because the way the Nesivos asks the question is a bit more than Rabbi Eiger. Rabbi Eiger just says I don't get why the Mishnah needs the logic of Amanas Kein Koinsa, but the Nesivos adds that why would you not be chayiv in the Tosefes, right? That's an added prat,
right?
Which is a pretty compelling question. In other words,
right.
By the way, the Chasam Sofer, the din of Gershon Eskar Katan Shnala Dami being dependent on the area of what you're speaking about. In other words, it's not across the board that we say Gershon Eskar Katan Shnala Dami. There's a Gemara in Yavamas on Mem Chesamad Beis. The Gemara talks about why Gerim have a hard life Bisman Hazeh. So the Gemara wants to know. The Gemara says, well, maybe it's because they don't keep the Shav Mitzvos they didn't keep the Shav Mitzvos B'nai Noach. To which the Gemara says, well, why would that be a reason? Gershon Eskayar Kekatan Shnai Ladami. And the Gemara gives other reasons. Maybe the Gemara gives a whole bunch of reasons. The question is, the Tana who held it was because they didn't keep the Shav Mitzvos. He doesn't argue on the din of Gershon Eskayar Kekatan Shnai Ladami. It's just that L'chayra, he holds that Gershon Eskayar does not apply to the Sheva Mitzvos, because regarding the Sheva Mitzvos, there's no real difference between Jews and Goyim. So regarding this area, we don't say Gershon Eskayar Katan Shnala Dami. It's a very interesting topic. It happens to be very relevant to Shavuos, but you see here in the Nesivos, he doesn't want to just use Gershon Eskayar. It's only the Gershon Eskayar dissolves the marriage, so now he no longer is obligated in the Kesuvos. Okay, Rabbi Sai, that's what I got for you today.
Thank you.
Kol tov.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Kol tov. See ya. Bye. Oh, guys, I think I have to do the...
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.